Daniel Reeves and Priya Sharma never imagined that a routine hospital visit in Sydney would bind their lives together in a secret that would end in blood. He was a respected officer with the New South Wales police force, trained to investigate crimes and protect the public. She was a dedicated Indian nurse, building a new future far from home. For 5 years, they lived between stolen moments and silent promises, believing their hidden world was untouchable. But when ambition, fear, and an unexpected pregnancy collided inside a hospital parking garage, the man sworn to uphold the law became the center of a murder investigation that shocked an entire city. In the quiet suburbs of Sydney, Senior Constable Daniel Reeves built a reputation that many officers spend a lifetime trying to earn. He served with the New South Wales police force for nearly 15 years, working long shifts, responding to emergencies, and handling cases that range from domestic disputes to violent assaults. His record was clean, his supervisors trusted him, and younger officers often looked to him for guidance. He understood procedures, respected authority, and rarely allowed emotions to interfere with duty. At home, Daniel's life appeared equally steady. He lived in a modest brick house with his wife and 2 children. Weekends were spent mowing the lawn, attending school events, and visiting relatives. Neighbors described him as polite and dependable. His uniform carried weight in the community. When he walked through local shops, people greeted him with quiet respect. The turning point came after a minor injury during a night patrol. A strained shoulder sent him to Westbridge Private Hospital for treatment. There, during a routine check and follow-up visits, he met Priya Sharma, an Indian nurse who had recently moved to Australia for better opportunities. She was professional, calm, and dedicated to her work. Far from her family and adjusting to a new country, she carried both ambition and loneliness. Their early interactions were brief and ordinary. A few extra minutes during checkups. Casual updates about recovery. Over time, small conversations stretched longer. They discussed cultural differences, career pressures, and the challenges of responsibility. What felt harmless at first slowly grew into something neither openly acknowledged but both quietly anticipated. The relationship did not begin recklessly. It developed in small, calculated steps. After his recovery, Daniel found reasons to return to Westbridge Private Hospital, sometimes under the excuse of follow-up checks, sometimes claiming community liaison visits. Priya remained cautious at first. She understood the risks of getting involved with a married man, especially one in uniform. But Daniel presented himself as emotionally distant from his home life, describing a marriage that felt routine and empty. Over time, sympathy turned into attachment. Their meetings shifted outside the hospital. They chose places far from Daniel's suburb, quiet cafes near the harbor, parks where few people recognized him, and occasionally short-stay apartments booked under variations of his name. Daniel was careful with details. He paid in cash when possible, avoided social media connections, and kept his phone notifications hidden. His knowledge of investigative methods gave him confidence that he could manage the secret. For Priya, the affair became more than stolen evenings. She had left India to build a stable future, sending money back to her parents and working exhausting shifts. Daniel offered comfort and attention during moments when she felt isolated in a foreign country. She began rearranging her schedule to match his availability, prioritizing him over friendships and social invitations. As the years passed, maintaining the double life required increasing effort. Daniel grew distant at home, often claiming overtime duties. Financial gaps appeared as he quietly spent money on hotel rooms and gifts. At the hospital, colleagues noticed Priya checking her phone more often, stepping away during breaks. The secret that once felt thrilling slowly became heavy. 5 years of hidden meetings built an invisible pressure neither of them fully understood, but both were beginning to feel. By the 5th year, the relationship no longer felt balanced. What had once been built on secrecy and excitement began to feel strained and uncertain. Daniel sensed that the risks were increasing. Within the New South Wales police force, an internal review unit had begun conducting routine background audits on officers. These audits examined financial disclosures, outside associations, and potential conflicts of interest. Although the review was standard procedure, Daniel viewed it as a threat. His hidden expenses, unexplained withdrawals, and undisclosed relationship could destroy the career he had spent years building. At the same time, Priya's expectations had changed. 5 years was no longer a temporary chapter in her life. She had sacrificed time, emotional security, and potential relationships, believing that Daniel would eventually make a clear decision about their future. Instead, he remained cautious and non-committal, always postponing serious steps. The situation intensified when Priya discovered she was pregnant. Medical records later confirmed she had visited a private clinic for testing. She kept the information to herself at first, processing the reality alone. For her, the pregnancy represented permanence, a turning point that could no longer be hidden or delayed. Digital evidence later showed that she had begun researching parental rights, financial support laws, and housing options. Her internet searches suggested preparation, not panic. She appeared to be planning carefully. For Daniel, however, the news threatened everything: his marriage, his reputation, and his badge. A child would leave a permanent record, one that no secrecy could erase. Investigators later believed that in those tense weeks, fear replaced rational thinking. The careful control he maintained for years was slipping away, and the illusion of stability was beginning to crack under pressure. The night of the murder began like any other shift at Westbridge Private Hospital. Priya completed her rounds, updated patient charts, and logged out of the system shortly after 10 p.m. Security footage showed her walking alone toward the underground parking garage, her handbag over one shoulder and car keys in hand. The lighting in the garage was dim but functional, casting long shadows between concrete pillars. At 10:12 p.m., a dark sedan entered the garage. Registration records later confirmed it was registered to Daniel Reeves. The vehicle parked several rows away from Priya's car, partially obscured from the main entrance camera. For nearly 20 minutes, there was no visible movement beyond occasional headlights passing at the exit ramp. At 10:34 p.m., Daniel's vehicle exited the structure. Priya's car remained stationary overnight. The next morning, a maintenance worker discovered her body beside the driver's side door. She had suffered blunt force trauma to the head. There were no signs of robbery. Her purse was untouched. Her phone lay cracked, but present near the front tire. Nothing suggested a random attack. Due to Daniel's position within the New South Wales police force, the case was immediately transferred to an external investigative unit to avoid conflicts of interest. Detectives sealed the garage, collecting tire impressions, fingerprint samples, and blood traces. When questioned, Daniel stated he had been patrolling nearby streets and briefly entered the garage to check on a reported suspicious vehicle. However, GPS data from his police-issued device placed him parked inside the structure for an extended period. Further forensic testing later revealed microscopic blood traces in the trunk of his personal car. The controlled secrecy that had defined 5 years unraveled in a single night beneath cold fluorescent lights. As investigators dug deeper, the case shifted from suspicion to structure. A warrant allowed detectives to search Daniel's home, vehicles, and digital devices. Inside his garage, hidden in a metal toolbox beneath old repair manuals, they found a second mobile phone wrapped in cloth. The device was locked, but forensic analysts were able to extract 5 years of messages, location data, and financial transfers. The timeline matched the growth of his relationship with Priya almost exactly. Bank statements revealed steady withdrawals that had never been disclosed in household accounts. The funds were routed through small transfers to an account under Priya's maiden name. What appeared minor in isolation formed a clear pattern when reviewed over years. Investigators also recovered deleted notes from Daniel's primary phone. One document contained calculations of potential child support payments and projected salary loss if dismissed from the New South Wales police force. The entries were dated just weeks before the murder. Priya's medical file confirmed she was 8 weeks pregnant. Surveillance footage from a private clinic showed her attending an appointment alone. There was no evidence of panic or distress in her movements. Digital searches on her laptop suggested preparation for motherhood rather than avoidance. Forensic experts reconstructed the likely sequence in the parking garage. Blood pattern analysis indicated the attack occurred beside the driver's door, not inside the vehicle. There were no defensive wounds suggesting prolonged struggle, and no unknown DNA was found at the scene. Each piece of evidence built a consistent narrative. The secrecy that Daniel managed for 5 years left behind digital footprints he could not erase. By the time the case reached court, the investigation had transformed a hidden affair into a documented chain of motive, opportunity, and irreversible violence. As news of the arrest spread across Sydney, attention quickly turned to Daniel's family. His wife had lived for years believing her marriage was strained but stable. She had noticed the late shifts, the emotional distance, and the unexplained tension, yet she trusted the demands of police work as the reason. The discovery of a 5-year affair came as a second shock, followed by the public accusation of murder. Financial investigators presented records showing thousands of dollars redirected from joint savings into hidden accounts. Small, regular withdrawals had gone unnoticed at first. Over time, they formed a pattern that showed careful planning rather than impulsive spending. Family savings meant for school fees and household expenses had quietly supported the secret relationship. Media coverage intensified the damage. Reporters camped outside the family home. Headlines emphasized the contrast between Daniel's public image and his private actions. Photographs of him in uniform appeared beside images of the hospital parking garage. The community that once respected him now questioned how long the deception had been unfolding. Daniel's children faced whispers at school. Neighbors avoided direct eye contact. The family home, once ordinary and quiet, became associated with scandal. Investigators found no evidence that his wife had knowledge of the affair or the pregnancy. She had not appeared in any messages, transfers, or hidden communications. During pre-trial hearings, prosecutors highlighted how Daniel had compartmentalized his life with precision. He maintained separate phones, accounts, and schedules. Yet while he believed he was protecting his reputation, the fallout proved wider than expected. The crime did not only end Priya's life, it dismantled the structure of trust within his own household. The consequences extended far beyond the parking garage, leaving emotional damage that no verdict could repair. As the trial approached, forensic specialists described the investigation as a textbook example of how technology can expose hidden crimes. Daniel had relied on his experience within the New South Wales police force to avoid traditional mistakes. He avoided obvious communication channels and limited physical evidence. However, modern digital systems recorded details he did not fully consider. His personal vehicle automatically stored route history through its onboard navigation system. Even when location services were manually disabled on his phone, the car's internal memory preserved timestamps and coordinates. Data analysts recovered precise entry and exit times from the hospital parking structure, aligning perfectly with CCTV footage. Parking garage cameras had recently been upgraded with enhanced low-light imaging. Though Daniel chose a spot partially shielded by a concrete pillar, reflective surfaces on nearby vehicles captured fragments of movement. Frame-by-frame analysis placed his silhouette near Priya's car minutes before the recorded exit of his vehicle. Priya's fitness tracker added another layer of evidence. Health data showed a sudden spike in heart rate at 10:27 p.m., followed by abrupt inactivity. The timestamp matched the window when Daniel's car remained stationary inside the structure. Her mobile phone, though damaged, preserved background app activity confirming she had just ended her hospital shift. Forensic technicians also examined microscopic fibers found in the trunk lining of Daniel's car. The fibers matched fabric from Priya's uniform. Combined with faint blood traces detected through chemical enhancement, the findings weakened any alternative explanation. Each independent device told part of the story. When combined, they formed a consistent and unavoidable timeline. The very systems designed for convenience and safety became silent witnesses, reconstructing movements with precision no human memory could challenge. By the time the case reached the Supreme Court of New South Wales, the narrative had shifted from speculation to documented sequence. Prosecutors presented a clear structure built on digital timelines, forensic science, and financial records. They argued that the motive was rooted in fear of exposure, loss of career, and permanent responsibility. Daniel had spent years managing every detail of his hidden life. The pregnancy threatened to make secrecy impossible. Defense attorneys attempted to challenge the interpretation of evidence, suggesting gaps and alternative possibilities. But the accumulation of data left little room for doubt. GPS logs placed his vehicle inside the hospital parking garage. Surveillance footage confirmed entry and exit times. Blood traces and fiber analysis connected his car to the scene. The second phone revealed 5 years of deception and recent anxiety over potential consequences. When the verdict was delivered, the courtroom remained silent. Daniel Reeves, once a respected officer in Sydney, was found guilty of murder. His uniform, once a symbol of authority, had become a reminder of betrayal. Priya's family traveled from India to attend the final hearings. They described her as hardworking and hopeful, someone who believed in building a future through dedication. She had come to Australia seeking opportunity, stability, and growth. Instead, her life ended in a concrete parking structure beneath hospital lights. The case left lasting questions about power, secrecy, and control. A relationship that began quietly in a hospital corridor ended in irreversible violence. Technology uncovered what careful planning tried to conceal. In the end, the truth did not rely on emotion or confession. It relied on data, patterns, and the reality that even the most disciplined double life eventually leaves evidence behind.